Hey guys, this video podcast is called World War I Begins, and we're really going to be able to describe what's going on in this cartoon. This cartoon called A Chain of Friendship from 1914 explains how this war breaks out. So here we go, Europe's war. Let's start it, unfortunately. Remember the four causes: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. We did that the first day. We'll jot those down. Let's talk about the Balkan crisis. What's the Balkans? The Balkans is this peninsula that involves countries like Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria. This says Macedonia. It ends with Greece. The Greece at the bottom tip of it, that's the Balkan Peninsula. And there's a lot of racial, ethnic hatred of each other in this area. So the Serbs, Bosnians, Croats, and Slovenes sought to break free from the big empire called Austro-Hungarian Empire. They wanted their freedom. The Serbs were the first to break free. They form Serbia. Russia's friendly with the Serbs. Austria's not. And things got a little more heated in 1908 when Austria-Hungary annexes Bosnia, and just showing that they're not going to let these people break free. It was just a bad sign that the Slavic nation people were upset about. So Serbia fears that Austria is never going to let the Slavic people in its empire become independent. And people call this area, the Balkan Peninsula, a powder keg. What's a powder keg? In the old days, on a Navy ship, you'd keep the gunpowder in a wooden barrel, okay? And they called this the powder keg. And all it was going to take was one little spark to ignite this whole region. And the spark, you might recall, is the assassination. Franz Ferdinand, good job acting it out in class. That's the actual picture of the Archduke. Remember, he was visiting Sarajevo, the capital of the Austrian province of Bosnia, with his wife. And they're both not going to make it out of the situation alive, thanks to this man, Gavrilo Princip, member of the Black Hand, the terrorist Slavic extremist group, we'll call it, fighting on behalf of his people of Serbia, try to teach, I guess, the Austro-Hungarians a lesson. But I'm not sure how he would feel about how this all played out. Supposedly, that's a picture of him getting arrested. I'm not sure if I trust it or not. It kind of looks like he has makeup on. So maybe this is like a video remake, like an early movie remake of the scene. I'm not sure. But this is the car that the Archduke was traveling in that day, when the famous assassination that started the world's deadliest conflict began. But of course, side note, World War II is going to replace it as the deadliest. So let's talk about these alliances. World War I is all about these famous alliances that started. Before the war, there was a triple friendship called the Triple Entente. I guess Entente in French means friendship. So the Triple Entente is GB, Great Britain, France, and Russia. So see the chart on your middle of your paper? The top left where it says Triple Entente, write down GB, France, and Russia. But once the war breaks out, these guys are going to be known as the Allied powers. So on the bottom left, where it says they become the Allied powers, so it's going to be the same three: GB, France, and Russia, plus Italy a little later. Now look, there's going to be actually dozens of countries eventually involved, but we're going to call these the main ones, okay? The main players, main decision makers. I'll show you a list someday, but all their colonies, in Africa and all their colonies in Asia, they forced all these people to come over and fight on their behalf. I mean, it's such a mess. So on the other side, who are they fighting? The top right corner, Triple Alliance, is what this group was before the war. In the years and decades leading up to it, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy had each other's backs before the war, called the Triple Alliance, three of them. And then when war breaks out, the assassination happens, war is declared, then they officially change their name to the Central Powers. They're known as the Central Powers, which is still Germany and Austria-Hungary. But Italy's going to remove themselves. They're not sure they want to be on their side. So I guess not a very good friendship. But instead it's going to be the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria. So write that down on the bottom right-hand side of the chart. Read that caption on that picture. Pretty crazy. But this is why they call them the Central Powers, because look at the red section. The Central Powers goes through the middle of Europe at an angle like that. So think of them as the Central. So here's how it all goes down. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Why? The assassination, of course. Russia is allied with Serbia. They're buddies. So that Russia starts to move its troops down to the border with Austria and Germany just to send a signal, okay? And then Germany declares war on Russia and France. Russia and France. Why? Because Germany had an alliance with Austria-Hungary, so they were forced to defend their allies with Austria, but also because if you're going to declare war on Russia, you might as well just declare war on France and get it over with and kind of catch them off guard because those two countries had an alliance. So they just did it. Next. So now they're on the move. Germany is going to get started by getting its way to France, but it's going to go through neutral Belgium. It could go along the border here, but France would be too expecting that, be ready for that. So they go through neutral Belgium, and this ends up being the first strike. Why would Germany want to fight a two-front war? Why would Germany want to split itself to fight on the east and fight on the west? And guess what? They do this in both world wars. Now Germany is a little too close to Great Britain's liking. Great Britain has an alliance with France, so Great Britain feels the need to jump in, defend its allies of Russia and France, and they declare war on Germany because of that alliance. The Allied powers are official. Okay. And then in 1915, a year later, Italy decides to join on the Allies' side. So don't forget to make sure they're written down on the Allied powers, Italy. They joined late. Okay. So if we were in class right now, I'd have you pull down the pull-down map that's in my room. Hopefully it wouldn't fall on my head like it's done before. And I would give you a pointer, a yardstick, and I would say, hey, why don't you do it? It starts with, and I'll stop. You can pause it. Maybe you could quiz yourself. Say, World War I begins when? Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand happens, and that causes who to declare war on Serbia? You can pause it and try that on your own. Okay, so anyways, the war's going on. Germany is on the move. They go within 30 miles of Paris. They go through neutral Belgium. They're now in France. It's pretty scary how fast they're moving. They get to within 30 miles of Paris, but they're stopped by the British and French troops at what's called the Battle of the Marne. And honestly, at that point on, they get locked into this stalemate, this bloody stalemate in trenches that are hundreds of miles. If you look at the map here, see the yellow dotted line? This ends up being the line of trenches, hundreds of miles long, and it kind of stays there for the next 3 years or so. It's not to the last year of the war that things start to finally move. When America gets some fresh blood in there, we get to some fresh new weapons and move things along. You know what? I'm going to keep going. I knew I drew a line on the paper, but I'm going to keep going to Horrors of War and do a little bit of this too because, just keep things moving. I'm on a roll. So I've updated these slides with some really cool colorized photos. I mean, this is a real picture. This is not AI. This is a real photo that's been colorized in modern years with the tech. But see this guy. This is a periscope that he sticks up. Okay, a periscope. It's wrapped in like a cloth thing, so it kind of blends in more camouflage. But it looks in this way. Mirror goes up to the top mirror, reverses the image again. Yeah, he's not going to want to be sticking his head up there, right? So he's going to use the periscope. Otherwise, this guy's taking a break. Maybe he's reading a letter from his loved ones, his girlfriend, who knows. But that's it, man. You're living in the trench. There's no, going back to the hotel. You're living here. You're doing everything. And we're talking about trench warfare, the primary form of warfare, which involves lots of shovels, lots of digging, lots of playing in the mud. In the middle of yourself, you have this thing called no man's land, which, so say that the Allies are on this side. Say the British, French are on this side in the trenches, and then the Germans are across the way. In the middle is no man's land, just like it sounds. No one owns it. You don't own it, they don't own it. It's where you go to get killed. It's where you go to try to attack the enemy. And if you look on the left-hand side, say that the British are attacking, okay? And they're running across the pockmarked shell holes of no man's land, and they're trying to get to the trenches here in the front line trench, and you got a support trench back here, and you have the officers' quarters. This is the German officers' quarters, dug 15 meters below ground sometimes. 15 meters? My gosh. And you got the pillboxes shooting some guns, or shooting their artillery at you. You have a reserve trench way back here where you guys can finally go to get a night's sleep and rest a little bit, get some food. And the way back, you have these huge artillery guns that are placed, it says up to 10 kilometers behind the line. These things would shoot dozens of miles if necessary. And these guys talk about geometry. Why do I have to take geometry class? These guys know what angle, what pitch the the barrel of the gun has to be angled at so that the arc of the shell will hit just the right spot. I mean, these were perfectionists. No, thank you. This is a cross section of what the trench might look like. Okay, so if they got smart, they would have something for you to walk on called duck boards, raised up, because if you're walking in the mud all day long, okay, then something real bad's going to happen. Here, I'll show you. But yeah, this is where you go to kneel or to stand, to put your head over as little as possible, to aim your rifle with your steel helmet on, of course. Look at the barbed wire. A big part of this war was slowing down the enemy advance. So, like, as they're coming at you, you want to slow them down so they don't have a chance to, even if it takes them twice as long to get to you. Okay, well, how many more rifle shots can you get off at them? Or how many more machine gun rounds can be fired as the Germans are coming at you if you slow them down enough? So look at this, dozens of rows of barbed wire. What a mess. If you're lucky, you might be, if you're unlucky, I was kidding, you might be assigned, hey, you're the barbed wire cutter guy, and your job is to go sneak around at night, on your belly in the middle of the night when it's pitch black with wire cutters, and you're trying to cut the wire so that the guys behind you can, oh my gosh, you did not have a very long life expectancy with that job. This is the French soldier wearing his blue uniform. These are some real French soldier pictures of them getting a haircut and just hanging out and chilling on the lookout. And here are some pictures here's a picture of this French soldiers fixing bayonet. Actually, these might be American soldiers fixing bayonet, which means, hey guys, I'm about to blow the whistle, and when I do, you better run like you've never run before. But this is all happening while the Western Front is called a stalemate. Just like in chess, what's a stalemate? It's when neither side can win. There's no movement. There's no offense. It's all defense. If you're on defense and I'm on defense, that doesn't work. And that's what 3 years of the war turned into. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. You're dealing with disease, rats, lice. It's disgusting. These rats, they talk about them being the size of cats. All the dead bodies you could ever want to eat. These poor, these disgusting rats. And in fact, there are still some trenches left in France today. Some farmers' fields, they still exist. But the food was just terrible, the rotten food. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine, like, spoiled tin meat and stuff. And finally, I get to leave you with this. If you're walking around in these waterlogged trenches, like I referenced earlier, and your feet are wet all day long, week after week, you're going to develop trench foot, which starts with like a fungus thing, kind of like athlete's foot, but times a million. And you let it fester, and your feet never get a break. They never dry out. It creates athlete's foot. And if you don't treat if you don't treat the trench foot properly, then you can't walk. Your feet are swollen, they're red, they're painful, you can't put any weight on them. Well, guess what? You're useless as a soldier now if you can't walk, let alone run across the trenches. So they issued orders for tons more socks to be delivered from the American factories, and you were given strict orders to, like, take off your socks at night, hang them up to dry, put them by the fire, do whatever you got to do. Yeah, disgusting. I hope you're eating a little bit of ice cream right now. Hope you're eating some chips. I just ruined your evening. Yeah, trench foot, no good. It also happened in Vietnam because of the swamps, the extreme. But don't forget about trench mouth for these soldiers. You think they have toothbrush? You think they have their Crest toothpaste, or their Aquafresh? I don't think so. So these guys are going weeks, if not months, without brushing their teeth, living in a trench with muddy water. So, yeah. Some serious consequences here. And that's where I'll stop. So thank you for taking the notes. Go to Google Classroom, take the Google quiz, prove to me that you did it. Thank you. Adios.